Hello and welcome back to the Moss Rods channel. At the time of filming, it is currently the afternoon of Friday, July 11th, which means that in a couple of hours, the 48-hour group build is going to be starting. This is a build that's hosted over on Facebook between a couple of builders, and similar to the 24-hour build-off that happened earlier in January this year, it is a strict time frame of between 8 p.m. Friday to 8 p.m. Sunday that you have to finish a build. This year, I am struggling a little bit with making sure I have enough time to do it this weekend. I have a few things going on in my personal life, but hopefully I'll have time to build something. I won't be able to dedicate a full weekend to it, kind of like how I did the 24-hour build-off. I was able to dedicate a full 24 hours to the build. I don't think I'll be able to do that this year, or this month, or whatever, for this competition. So I wanted something that I think should be fairly straightforward, which has led me to this Revell 914 Porsche. This is also a kit that I had in my collection for about a year that I bought just because I like Porsches, and the 914s are kind of cool. They're slept on, but still kind of cool. But I never actually really wanted to build it, so I figured this would be a pretty good opportunity. So, kind of talk you through the kit a little bit, I guess. This is a 2016 release by Revell, and one thing I guess I'll ask you all for, I don't know a ton about 914s, but I do know the 916 is a super rare, almost prototype. I don't know if they were actually legit sold version of the 914 that had a 2.5 liter as opposed to a 2-liter engine and flared fenders, and I think they had a more luxurious interior or something like that. So I'm curious, because I've never seen a 916, well, I've never seen a 916, actually, I may have. Yeah, I feel like I would have saw one at like the Rolex reunion or something, but I've never seen an image of a 916 without flares, and this kit does not come with flares nor another engine. So I'm curious why they have 914/6 on the box. I don't know if that's actually a designation, but in my eyes I'm reading it as a Porsche 914 or 916, which would not be the case. So kind of curious about that, if any of you know the answer. I do know that this is an old kit. I actually have a older release of a Revell Lodella, which was Revell's licensing in Mexico. And so that's one of the kits that's actually in the collection as opposed to the stash. Really cool, very hard to find kit that I'm super happy to have. But anyways, this is a 2016 release. These things are kind of dirt cheap. I saw a lot of them went up for sale on clearance back in the day. So you can get them fairly cheap secondhand, which is how I came across this one. And yeah, I know they're not the best kit. I mean, just looking at the box, wheel alignment's super off. That actually almost looks photoshopped in the rear. Windshield looks a little funky. And I love it. They have this one photo on the box of the trunk of the car, and it just looks so sad without any, like they have it on the race car version. Like, can you, I don't know, put like a battery back there or something to kind of fill it up? Also, check out that nice gap between the inner fender and the outer fender. So, that's nice. Typically on real cars, that's carpeted, so at least the trunk looks a little nicer. But yeah, so basically plan for this build is going to be the Moss Rod Special. It is going to be slam it, patina it, add a fun motor, call her good. So, I just have the kit tires here. I would love to do a bagged look, because these things can tuck tires pretty well, and I think that could be funky. So that's the plan. I also have a file that I found on Cults for a Subaru, it might be I honestly can't remember if it's a WRX or an STI engine. I think it's an STI engine, which is a super common swap on these. People love swapping engines into these cars. I've seen a bunch of LS swaps. I've seen a Ferrari California swap, I think. Volkswagen VR6, I almost considered doing that. That would have been cool. But we're going to keep it kind of standard and do the Subaru flat 4 swap, which I think quite a few of these are running around with. So that's kind of the plan. Going to do a little bit of patina work on it, and yeah, I don't want the intro to carry on too long, so let's get to it. Jumping back in here to make a quick correction. So I did just check the values on these, and it does seem like the values have started to go up in the last year. So I take back what I said. I'm sorry if I gave you false hope. These are not necessarily affordable kits anymore. Looks like they're going for about the $40 to $50 range. When I got this, I think I paid maybe $10 for it. So my apologies there. Didn't mean to say $50 was affordable. I did not realize. There we go, 8 o'clock. Time to get started. So, a couple quick things. You may hear in the background some noise. I have my printer running. I have a few parts that I am working on printing for this, including a set of wheels, the the STI engine, some seats, and I also designed up some pop-up headlights that'll hopefully work for this. So that is currently running in the background. I had started it earlier, but unfortunately the print did not turn out. I'm not going to be doing hourly updates like I did for the 24-hour build-off, since I'm not going to be spending my entire life at the bench this weekend. I'm just going to be doing little intervals. But yeah, so I'll do occasional updates every couple hours, kind of show what I have done. But first thing, of course, is going to be cleaning up this body. This little nose has been bothering me ever since I opened up this kit to start taking measurements for the headlights. So that needs to come off along with the other little ears it has here. So yeah, time for cleanup. See you in a bit. It's currently 10 o'clock here in California, which I think is a good time to do my first update of the build, now that we're 2 hours in. I have not made a lot of progress, which I'm a little disappointed by, but that's alright. This kit needed quite a bit of cleanup. The first hour was, okay, slightly exaggerating, but about the first 45 minutes was just cleaning up the kit. It had so much flash. Yeah, just mold lines, flashing, all that typical stuff. That took about 45 minutes. And then I started just making sure that the engine would fit. So here is just a test engine I have of the STI engine, and I got it to fit, which is nice. I did start to assemble the rear a bit, so the rear firewall is in place. These little side panels are in place. Transmission has been mounted and actually will work with the STI engine, which is great. A pretty good hiccup that I had was a lot of the parts that I designed were misscaled. Or, sorry, not designed, but printed. So I printed a set of wheels, and these are much too small. And then I printed some seats, but forgot that this is a 1/25th scale kit, not a 1/24th, so the seats are a little too big, so I'll have to rescale those. Rescale the wheels and print those, which unfortunately I can't do a lot without the correct size wheels because this is going to be lowered and I can't really do the suspension without knowing the height of the wheels. So that's a bit unfortunate. Also, speaking of the interior, I did not realize that the passenger seat is molded in, which is kind of a bummer, so that's going to have to be removed. But it's also the firewall. This is visible from the engine compartment, so I'll have to probably just cut out the cushion and leave the back of the seat in place. Though I will say I am glad I have a 3D printed engine, because this kit engine is not very good. Not very well detailed. But, it's fine. Kind of, what else have I done? I just started cutting out the headlight so that I can add one of my pop-ups. I did manage to slice myself, so I got my nice little garage bandage going here. That happened just before 10. And yeah, that's really all I have. So again, not a lot of progress, which is not great, but I think we're still doing okay. I'm probably only going to throw maybe another half hour into it tonight just to get the headlights sorted, and then I'll call it. Maybe spend the night redesigning things and getting the print ready tomorrow. Get the print ready for tomorrow, but we'll see. I mean, we have all of tomorrow and pretty much all of Sunday, so we have pretty much the entire weekend to finish this thing. So we'll see how it goes. So it's now just a few minutes after noon on Saturday, and I've been at the bench for about 2 hours today, and I've made some more progress. Again, not a lot. I still don't have anything in paint, which is kind of bothering me, but I started off by cutting out the cushion for the passenger seat, so I'll be able to fill that in and get the passenger seat to fit. I don't believe the cushion will affect anything, so I just kind of left that in place. The body is pretty much ready. I think I have a little bit more sanding to do on the rear, just because I ended up gluing the rear trunk in place, and I did that for a reason, and that was because I clearanced the chassis in order to be able to tuck the tires up, and since we cut all that, I don't think there's really a need to have the trunk open, so I just glued it shut. I have a little bit of glue runoff I need to sand down, and then the body should theoretically be ready for paint. I do have the pop-up headlight, just the one, so that is that. And that's pretty much all I've done. I have the front firewall. They call it a firewall in the instructions, but it's not a firewall because it's not between the engine and the interior. But yeah, the bulkhead, there you go. It's called a bulkhead. Have that done, and that's pretty much where I'm at this morning. So I have my printer running in the background, which you might be able to hear. I'm rescaling the wheels, rescaling the seats, and then once I have the wheels done, I should be able to finalize the suspension, and that will pretty much be the last hurdle we have to like really get going on this. So hopefully we'll have that done probably in another hour or two, and then we can start making some progress. Alright, it is now the afternoon of Saturday, and I think I'm about 7 hours total build time into this build. And as you can see, we're finally getting some paint on some stuff. So I would call this a color reveal, but you know, I'm probably going to have the final photo of the car as the thumbnail of the video, so it's not really a color reveal. But yes, we're going black, and then I also painted a base coat of silver on the engine, so I'll start detailing that. I ended up using a slightly larger engine, so this engine was 1/25th scale, scaled down 90% because I wasn't sure if it was going to fit okay, so I kind of cheated. But I made the full scale engine work. I just had to move the intercooler and kind of flip it around so that it would fit, and then just kind of clear out one of these, I think it's the radiator hose. I had to remove that. So that will fit now and actually fills up the engine bay a lot better than the small scale one, which is nice because it's not going to be super easy to see the engine because you're looking in between the roll bar here. So having a bigger engine to fill up that space will be pretty nice. And then I just also finished the chassis. So I do have the properly scaled wheels and tires now, so I was able to set the ride height. I cut the shock in the rear. We're going to call that a airbag, I guess, or I guess you would have that as a spring and then you have an airbag right here, but we're not including that bit because no one's going to see it. So here are the custom swing arms, I guess you would call them. And then the front, similar kind of idea, cut the existing shock, and then rebuilt the lower control arms out of styrene to get those to look a little nicer. So this is going to go in for paint. I think the interior is ready for paint. So yeah, I'm going to get these into paint and then start on the weathering process on the body and also detailing the engine. It is now 8 o'clock on Saturday evening, so we've now made it halfway. We're at the 24-hour mark, and progress is looking a little better. I have part of the interior in for paint right now. I need to get the interior all painted, and I also have the front and rear bumpers that I realized I forgot to paint, so I got to get those painted. The engine is fully painted and detailed. I'll drop it, and then I'll throw a photo on right here to kind of show that off a little more. Really like how this painted up. And then, as you can see, I got the wheels mocked up. These are, I just finished painting these. These are a 3-piece Fuchs that's with an H, and that's how they're called. that's their name. Yep, so Porsche Fuchs, but 3 pieces. So we'll add those on. I think that'll look really cool. And yeah, so pretty much what's next is painting some more parts, and then I think it's time to start on the fun part, which is the patina on this. So hopefully by the next update I'll have a nicely rusted body. Which also, fun fact, I didn't realize that these were actually metal. Because when I was thinking about this build, I was doing some research, and I totally thought these are fiberglass cars. The roof is fiberglass, so I have one of those that I need to paint, and I'll do that in kind of a more fiberglassy look. But yeah, these bodies are metal, which, and they're not aluminum, they're steel, which I did not realize. I thought they would be fiberglass, and a second to that I thought they'd be aluminum, but nope, good old steel. Good morning. It is now Sunday the 13th, and we're down to less than 12 hours to finish. And this is where I'm at as of last night. I got the patina on the body done. Looks nice and toasty. I have the interior pretty much ready to go. The seats will need a little bit of detailing, but I have the interior and the engine installed. I flocked the floor. The dashboard is ready to install. Oh, that's upside down. Also, right before I called it last night, I added some Mod Podge to the turn signals, or I guess side markers, as well as the headlight, just to kind of give it a little bit of a lens look. The headlight did sink a little bit, so it is a concave lens, but whatever, at least it has a lens. Yeah, and then the kind of little setback, but not too big of a deal, is I painted the front and rear bumpers last night, but something happened. Either I sprayed them with the wrong, instead of clear, I used primer possibly, or maybe something reacted, because this is how they look this morning, which we'll compare it to this, which is also the same black and clear. The bumper looks a lot more gray, so not entirely sure what happened. It's kind of got a speckled look to it, so my guess is it just maybe reacted with something last night. I mean, it was kind of getting a little humid last night as the fog was rolling in, so that could have been the case. I also spray outside, so, I mean, this is all rattle can, so, you know, lighting wasn't great, so I guess it's possible I sprayed it with primer. I don't know, I don't think I was that delusional last night. But yeah, so that's where we're at. Quick little shout out, if you want to learn how to do my patina method, I have a video on my channel where I go over painting a 32 Ford. Same method, basically makeup sponges, acrylic paint. Pretty simple. So yeah, I'm gonna get going and maybe we'll do a midday update. We'll see. Alright, it is about 12:30 on Sunday, and we are getting very close to being done. Pretty much just gearing up for the final assembly right now. I just finished hinging the trunk. The original engine compartment, hood, whatever you want to call it, had these tiny, tiny little plastic nubs on the end that would go with correlating holes on these 2 side pieces. And they just did not work. They were so small that one of them pretty much didn't exist, and the other one was too short. So I ended up replacing it with this piece of paperclip right here. I'm just going to paint over that in black. And then I added a little piece of sheet styrene right here, or strip styrene, to act as a hood prop when it's closed. And these two pieces are a little bit wide for the engine compartment cover, but also they do fit pretty well with the body, so that's alright. So now the trunk, hood, whatever, I'm going to call it a different thing every time, now closes. It's going to be a pain to open up, but for now it works. Interior is done. Handbrake installed, shifter installed. I'll see if I have some seat belts. I know I had some printed at some point, though I don't know if I used them or not. So if I have those, I'll add them. If not, whatever. And bumpers are all painted and weathered, so those are ready to go. Those go on in final assembly. Wheels have been done since last night. And I have to say, other than the engine, the most disappointing part of this kit has to be the windshield. This has just been a mild annoyance. It's not the worst thing I've ever dealt with a kit, but it's been annoying. So this styrene piece is very thin, and it's really hard to get it to line up with the glass. Now, if I had enough time, I would have, actually relied on the Mod Podge to hold it in, but it was not working, and it wasn't conforming well, so I did use very small amounts of super glue to hold it in. There's a little bit of leakage right here in the corner, but that's kind of what I had to do. And then it comes with these little chrome pieces that I painted silver to act as the trim, and those are too short, which is annoying. There's a noticeable gap on this side. And yeah, I guess if you look from the back, I'll bring you up close here. If I angle it just right, there you go. You can see that there's a gap between the top of the windshield frame and the windshield glass, so that's annoying. But yeah, also added a little tack that I had left over from the Mustang that I built. So I guess it now has a boost gauge. And yeah, that's pretty much where we are at. Just got to add the front turn signals. And then I think it's final assembly. The last thing I have to fabricate is going to be the exhaust, but that should be pretty simple. Just run it from the downpipe right here. Might have to get creative with how the transmission is in the way. Or maybe just don't do it. It's got an exit in the rear bumper right there. So that's going to go in after final assembly. But yeah, also got the roof done. Pretty simple. I don't know how the 917 roof goes on, or sorry, 914, but it just goes over the roll bar, I guess. I don't know. So, yeah. And then also, now that the windshield is starting to dry after being mounted, I got to do the silver trim around that and the roll bar. So that will be pretty much it. So this is going to be the last update, and then next time I turn the camera on, it should be done, unless something goes terribly wrong. Okay, nothing has gone terribly wrong, but update from the beginning of the video. So I had mentioned at the beginning, the box said 914/6, and I was curious if that meant that they were trying to claim that you could build a 916 in this kit. I did some research, and a 914/6 is a 914 that came with a 6-cylinder as opposed to the 4-cylinder. So this is not a 914/6 anymore because it has a Subaru 4-cylinder in it. I probably should have removed the 6 from the rear badge, but I didn't, so whoops. Well, we made it to Sunday afternoon. It is currently just before 7 here on the West Coast, and the Porsche is done. I actually finished this quite a bit earlier, around 2:30 this afternoon. Grabbed some photos about an hour ago, and now we're doing the video. So, this is what we're looking at. This is my Revell 914 Porsche. And I guess just to kind of act as a little recap, I started off by slamming this thing, doing some custom suspension in order to get it sitting as low as possible. It has a 3D printed Subaru EJ25 engine in the back. Interior has a set of 80s Recaro seats and a Momo steering wheel, along with a boost gauge. And then, of course, it has a set of 3-piece Fuchs wheels. Other than that, it's pretty much standard. I did also add the popped-up headlight. But yeah, so this kit was not as bad as I was expecting. There were some fitment issues, mainly around the engine compartment. That was not ideal. And I also mentioned previously that the windshield ended up being the biggest pain. So if it weren't for the windshield and just the extremely bland looking engine, this actually would not be that bad of a kit, which I'm surprised by. I was going into it thinking that this would be kind of a nightmare. Now, there are a few things I would change if I had a little more time. So let's get into that. So total time into this build was 15 hours. And I have the recap here. On Friday night, I spent 2.5 hours. On Saturday, I spent a total of 8.5 hours. And then today, I spent a total of 4 hours and 15 minutes on this build, coming up to a total of just shy of 15 hours. And then you can add another hour onto that if you want to include the time it took to design the headlight. So 15 hours is actually how much time I put into the 24-hour build-off, the BMW E21 I did back in January. But what was nice about the 48-hour build is that I put the same amount of time into this build, but I also still had plenty of time to enjoy my weekend. You know, last night I went out for dinner. This morning I went out to a flea market, which I have to brag a little bit. If you're a camera person, you'll get why this is the brag. I scored a Canon AE1 with a lens, case, filters, all that work, all that jazz for $20. So got to make sure that actually works, but even for parts I think that's worth it. But anyway, that's totally unrelated. So yeah, and I still finished with plenty of time to spare. I finished by 2:30, so I went out and, just enjoyed the rest of my weekend. So that's kind of nice. Like, a weekend is, I think what a lot of people like... Well, okay, what am I trying to say? I think there are a lot of people who actually do weekend builds, and that's something I don't typically do. A lot of my builds I spread out over the course of about 2 months on average, 1 to 2 months. And we'll end up putting somewhere around 25 to 35 hours, depending on the intensity of the build. Shorter builds, like I think my 66 Mustang was close to the 25-hour mark. However, my taco truck, one of my more extensive builds, I think that closed in at 40 hours. So, it's nice kind of having a smaller, low-pressure build. Well, not really low pressure. But yeah, so I think that's kind of the point of this build. This is my first year competing, so I don't really know the history. Well, okay, not competing, participating. But it's put on by a guy named Chris. I think his channel is... I believe his channel is Mutt Modeler here on YouTube. And yeah, so I think kind of the vibe for this is, just see what you can do in a weekend. And that's kind of a fun experiment. I mean, there's definitely a challenge to the 24-hour build. How much can you get done in 24 hours and actually still sleep if you're into that kind of thing? But yeah, so I guess that's kind of all I have to say about this. It was a lot of fun. For 15 hours, I'm pretty happy with how this turned out. There's obviously things I would do differently or add to if I had more time. I don't like the fitment of the rear bumper. I would have cleaned that up a little bit. Probably would have detailed the engine a bit more, detailed the interior a little more. But yeah, those are kind of the other things I would have done. Other than that, I'm pretty happy with it. I didn't actually end up running a full exhaust like I mentioned in the last video. It just has the tip glued in. So it didn't bother with that. Interior, I'll show photos. I didn't get a good photo of the interior though. Yeah, here I'll pop the engine compartment. So there's a very bad look, and there we go. You can kind of see the engine, which fills up the engine bay quite nicely. And I like that the intercooler has the STI logo on it, so it kind of acts as a little teaser of what's going on in there. But yeah, that's how it is. This was actually my first Porsche I've ever built, which is surprising because I'm really into Porsches. And I've done die-cast Porsches before, I just haven't actually done a model car. But I can guarantee you this will not be the last. I still want to do another build. I am still kind of leaning towards my 356, but the plan I had for that is pretty darn similar to what this was. And I usually don't like to do anything too similar back to back, so I might do... I have a 67 911 kit and a 944 kit, so I might do one of those instead. Those that would have different vibes than a slammed patina ratty Porsche. But yeah, so here it is. I guess final comment on it, I end up calling this the rat slab, as you can see on the plate. It just kind of looks like a slab, so that's kind of the name it's got. So there you go. Thanks for watching, and I'll close out with some glamour shots. Hopefully I'll see you in the next video.